All right, I'm here.
Damn.
Hey.
Thank God we can finally begin.
I came for
Now-
Connor.
We waited. Oh.
Now we are all here. We may commence the plan.
Go forward with
Execute
the
Order
preparations.
66.
Execute Order 66.
All right.
Now.
Anyway, while I have incapacitated.
Have some class, guys.
Hi.
I hate your puns so much. Freaking that. Anyway. First thing I wanted to go through was all of the closed discussions that we have. It's a lot of reading, but I don't know if I should read all of them. But
I can't read, so you're gonna have to.
I mean, I'm probably going
Every
to. But
single syllable.
I want to go through each category. It shouldn't take too long, really, just a few minutes. I'm going to go through each category. I'm going to read what we have finalized, and I want you guys to just tell me if you agree with what it is, if you think we should add anything written down, because I want everything written down.
Could you make it exciting?
Now listen here, you fuckers. We're going to be talking about that fucking permit.
Well,
Yeah, what he
that's a
said.
problem.
I'm just going to have the intros done by Lad. So as for permadeath, what we have written down is 3 deaths resulting from PvP encounters will equal a permanent character death. These strikes will have to be tracked, preferably by both parties, those who die and those who kill them. Similarly, any death resulting from valid execution will equal a permanent death. Any deaths resulting from a rule break or from PvE encounters like infected wolves, cold, will not be counted towards permadeath, but are still asked to be role played out accordingly, possibly meaning your character has received a long-lasting injury or something of the sort. One thing that we know is going to be an issue with that is just the honor system, because we don't really have any way to track who's died and, you know, how many times, which is why we're asking people and the people who killed them to keep track of that. But it's just going to be a trust system, really, because there isn't any way for us to know. If we look through the logs, and we could just keep track of the logs 24/7, but there's no way to know if that was a death that needs to count towards the permanent. I don't know. I'm just asking that people remain trustworthy, and if through time, if over time people prove that they can't be, then that rule will have to be adjusted. Other than that, I don't see any other issues with it. How about you guys?
Repeat
don't
exactly
see-
what you said. Full thing.
Seems fine.
Yeah, no, it
You know,
it
I think
seems
it's
pretty
fair.
fair.
I think it's good. I think
I
anyone.
think it seems
anyone
fair.
here would. Okay, cut me the fuck off, right? I'm out.
I'm
of here.
sorry.
Just because you're an administrator doesn't mean you have the shit fucking power to do that to you, all right? I don't want that going to your head or anything like that.
Shut
But I
you
swear to
down.
God, if you do it again,
Guys,
gonna
I've
file a
got some
grievance.
lag. Can we not? I really want to keep this meeting relatively short. I apologize for stepping on your sentence.
Well, I think that people around here would they'd like to roleplay their injuries. It makes roleplay more fun. I agree with that. I agree with everything you said, Connor.
3 deaths, yeah.
Yes.
3 deaths, execution, all that. Okay. As for the Game Master role, we didn't really get a lot of feedback for that. We know they're going to be called arbiters. We don't have any chosen yet. We know that there's going to be an admin leading that team, just as we have 2 admins right now leading the community support and floorkeeper teams. But all we've gotten back is staff must remain unbiased in all situations and have a full and in-depth understanding of the server's rule set. No special privileges will be granted for these individuals in-game. Basically, we're trying to prevent the kind of political hierarchy that has showed up on other roleplay servers where some people feel more entitled than others.
Daisy
So-
happy. I mean, what?
So no special privileges will be given to anybody. They will, of course, have staff power and staff pull, but as far as in-game, they're just going to be other role players, other characters. In-game, they're going to be just like anybody else. Anything else that you want to add? Are you okay with the general theme of that role, which is going to be handling in-game encounters, reports, role breaks, things like that? Do you want them to do anything else? Do you want them to do less?
The rule makes sense to me. I think we might want to specify that they can't work on cases that they're a part of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
remove the bias.
As for in-character communication, we didn't really finalize anything. That was one that it took a long time to get any information about. What we have written down is using a third-party system to communicate is only okay when talking with friends, so long as you mute or deafen immediately after the roleplay is entered. When speaking with strangers or coordinating meetings, the in-game radios are to be used. We highly suggest that the radios be used for more than that, but this is something we cannot enforce and can only strongly encourage. Should this be abused, then information about the current roleplay situation be given out through Discord without the other party's knowledge, or permanent removal from the community will be set in place. Obviously, that's something that's hard to prove, but if the situation arises. And then last sentence, radios will be used by as many groups and players as possible to create an environment in which they are more necessary and to make reaching people in game very, very difficult with that one. I know the staff team is going to be making an effort to use the in-game radios to try to create that environment that other people can kind of become a part of, that they'll feel comfortable with using the radios. They'll notice that they're significant. And this is just to try to increase immersion. Something that we talked about a lot, but we are still okay with using Discord when you're communicating with your friends during a run or anything like that, so long as soon as the roleplay is entered, you get in character. Is there any disputes with that?
That sounds pretty good.
No, that seems pretty good to me.
That's pretty nice.
Agreed.
Okay. We have a lot written down for hostages, so you're going to have to just forgive me because I have a boring voice, but I'm just going to read it. I've got no time constraint on robberies. I hate you. No time constraint on robberies unless the roleplay becomes stale or difficult to maintain. This is a problem that I've experienced a lot in the past, where it was either too short, where they didn't do enough. They just kind of like point their gun, take your stuff, and run away, which would be gear RP or bad RP, depending on what they did. Or it was way too long. The RP didn't continue. They just kind of stood there and stared at you for half an hour while going through your things and struggling with what to say and how to say it, and they just didn't know. They can be quick so long as the RP is sufficient, and they can be long if the roleplay makes sense and if it is required in the situation. So I don't care how long the robbery is, so long as the roleplay is decent and both parties have a good time. The biggest problem with other servers is that a robbery is seen as a horrible, horrible thing. In the real world, you wouldn't want to be robbed, obviously, but I still want to make the encounter enjoyable for both parties. I don't want people to look back at that encounter and say, man, that just wasn't fun for me, because we all want to have fun in every situation.
Yeah, I think. Oh, jeez, I just lost what I was saying. Go ahead.
Rip.
If you remember, just cut me off, you're good. Hostages can be killed if they become a hassle to take care of due to bad mouthing, refusal to obey, lack of pain RP, refusal to respond to questions, the rescuing party's inability to meet demands, shots fired by the rescue party, or if the unfortunate need arises, troll RP. That seems like a really long list that you're going to have to remember, but it really isn't. If they don't do what you say, if the roleplay is really bad, or if they're just not cooperating with you, you can kill them. I don't care. It's what would probably happen. Or, I mean, you don't have to. Obviously, you don't have to kill them if that's not something your character does, but it's going to be allowable because they're not making an effort with the roleplay. And
So-
execution, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so essentially, when you compare it to Daisy RPG, just as a clarification, obviously they say, oh yeah, you're allowed to actually kill someone, but then you get punished for it anyway. So we
Right.
just like to say, even if you decide, all that shit's going on, and you do decide to kill them, that's completely fine. You're not going to get penalized for that.
Right.
I think that needs to be a last resort, and that needs to be clear.
Oh,
I think
of
there
course,
always
yeah.
needs to be a way out of
Yeah.
that result.
Yeah, and that's why I
It
say
should-
if it's not mandatory, you don't have to kill them if they do anything like that. It's just, it's going to be an exceptional or an acceptable option. But I do agree that it shouldn't be the first thing you do. If you hit them with a baseball bat and they don't yell, you shouldn't shoot them.
If I
Whack across the head?
really want to shoot him.
Now, what about executing someone as a way of, I don't know, like punishing someone else who had been talking
Oh.
smack? Like,
Well, so
oh, shut your
essentially,
mouth, or
Or, like,
you're never
what
gonna
if
be able
you're-
to talk bad to me again. They keep talking, and you turn and shoot their mom in the face or something.
We can go over that situation once we get down to kill and execution rights.
Gotcha.
I want to know about
Um,
like hired assassins or mercenaries sent to kill someone.
Like, I mean, hurting somebody else, I think, should be possible. But again, I just like for killing to be a last resort in roleplay anyway, because it ends someone else's time, especially if it's not going to be contingent on their own actions.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But like Classic said, we'll get to that in the kills and executions.
Yeah, I'll touch on that once we get down there.
Sounds good.
As for the rest of the hostages section, an execution due to past hostilities or actions will always be a permadeath. However, if a hostage is killed by their taker due to lack of obedience or shots fired, it is up to the role player to determine whether the situation should realistically result in a permadeath of their character. So that's kind of a long sentence because I'm really wordy, but essentially, if you do something to piss off a group and later down the line they execute you through proper role play, and they execute you for those actions, it's going to be permanent death on your character. I want people who execute other people to clarify, out of character, of course, that it's an execution, because I don't want person A to kill person B and then person B to be in game the next day because they didn't realize it wasn't an execution. If they thought it was just a strike against their character, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I want it to be clarified. That's one thing that I want to make
Almost
sure happens.
like a town hanging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very good example.
We're putting a lot of trust in this community as honest role players. Please don't let us down.
Oh, you shouldn't, bud.
Fair. Also, as always, permission to perma can always be asked and or granted. I don't honestly feel like we need to go into that. If you and the other party you're role playing with agree on something that is against the rules, I don't care. If you guys out of
Within reason.
character, of course. But if you and the other people that you're role playing with agree to internally do something, say permadeath or a hostage situation that's staged, I don't necessarily care what the situation is. But if everyone involved is okay with it and encourages it, I don't mind. I want the role play to be enjoyable for everybody involved. And if that means going against something that's specifically listed, I'm okay with that, so long as everyone involved is also okay with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hostages might only be taken in serious circumstances. He stole my apple, or hey, what did you say about my mom? Just won't cut it. Building a serious environment here, respond appropriately and realistically. Your RP, though I trust it won't happen here, will result in a bad RP ban for the hostage taker. However, simply robbing somebody for their weapon or clothing will not be considered gear RP so long as the roleplay that goes along with the situation feels real, genuine, and impactful. That's kind of what I touched on earlier. I don't care how short it is. You can rob somebody for their gun. Just make the roleplay enjoyable. Make the roleplay believable. Have a reason for needing that weapon. Have a reason that you need it more than them. That you're willing to rob them for it. Make them enjoy the situation. Don't just point your gun and take it. The difference between gear RP and a good robbery is not the length of the robbery; it's the quality of the roleplay. Does that make sense?
Literally, the whole RP scenario could be like a minute, but the hostage taker is like, he's obviously scared about like aiming the gun at party B. You can tell in his voice he's scared. He could be like not crying, but on the verge of it, like if he's
Right.
that kind of character. And as long as that 1 minute is impactful, then it's okay.
Right. Yep.
But it can't be like a half-assed, genuine RP. It has to have your full 100% attention to detail.
Right.
And
You gotta be afraid to
strength.
die. You gotta
And there
exactly fucking die.
And part of the benefit of us having a smaller community, at least at this moment, and it's going to be probably even smaller once we introduce whitelisting, because I don't know if everybody's going to even whitelist. Activity has been low, or if people are going to make it past the
Everyone here-
whitelist process.
Everyone here, that's it. Kick it.
Excuse me. Like I was saying, though, one of the benefits of having this smaller, privatized, exclusive community is that, for the most part, everybody's going to know each other. So if you provide roleplay to another person that isn't sufficient in their eyes, I'm hoping that a report doesn't instantly spring up and we have to ban them. I'm hoping that they can talk it out, and assuming the mentor program becomes a thing and works, that can be an alternative. NVFL charges could apply to a hostage attempting to escape from a room locked down by multiple armed men. However, this will be situational. As a general token of advice, don't try it if you're not sure it will work, because in the real world, you wouldn't. No Value for Life is going to be pretty situational, which I'm hoping the community as a whole is okay with. I don't want you guys to be worried if you're going to get hit with an NVFL charge or not. I just want you to act realistically. Like I've said before, No Value for Life charges will apply even if you survive. But we'll touch on that in the next section. Is there any questions with the hostages?
No.
Not really.
Cool. For No Value for Life, don't intentionally do anything that'll probably get you killed. Unlike other servers, surviving the situation will not prevent the placement of NVFL charges. Just because you came out alive in that heavily outnumbered gunfight doesn't mean it made any sense at all for you to continue engaging. Act like a real human being would. We are also introducing the one for all clause, which Apron came up with, which states that if the RP deems it necessary, you may essentially sacrifice yourself to save your friends without NVFL charges. A death in this situation would have to be permanent, and living through it, though it should be extremely unlikely, should result in a traumatic response from your character. If this is not used appropriately to progress storylines and is instead used to simply bypass the NVFL rule, the clause will be removed. It's in place as a story device and should be utilized very infrequently. That's kind of largely in a test phase because we haven't seen it in action in the server. If it is abused, we're going to have to get rid of it, but I like the idea. Any questions about NVFL? It's going to be a lot of case-by-case basis, so staff's probably
I'm
going to...
looking forward to seeing it in action, and we'll tweak if anything is really majorly wrong with it.
Right. Now for the kill and execution rights. Due to Daisy's buggy nature, we can't trust that the animations will be correct all of the time. Because of this, simply raising a weapon or something similar cannot be considered an initiation. Besides that, we have no other specific rules regarding this topic. For initiations, like Ronan has said in the past, initiations are going to have to be a thing because people are going to need to be aware of what's happening in the current situation. I'm hoping that more creativity is used in the server and that we rely on roleplay instead of just initiating for the sake of initiating. I'm hoping that there's a lot more creativity there. But again, we'll see it once we get in game. Execution should obviously only be performed when extremely necessary and when there are multiple cases of prior hostility, but I don't feel the need to spell that out for you, nor do I foresee any of us abusing the open-ended rules system. Considering how tight-knit we're hoping to be as a private community, those who abuse the rules and ruin the immersion for the rest of us will quickly be singled out and removed. Initiations must be clear and they unfortunately have to exist, unless we'll have a KOS server. However, please, for the love of Talos, come up with something more unique than drop your guns. I want the server to be a living, breathing world where your actions have consequences. If something is done that warrants someone else's death, I don't feel that we should restrict that opportunity. These rules will remain few in nature unless through in-server experiences people are too immature to handle freedom. So, I'm dying kind of right now, but
Rip.
a little bit. That's pretty much what I mentioned about the tight-knit community. People who don't really understand the rules or take advantage of them, I'm hoping will be noticed very quickly. Any other questions about that section?
Nope, not on my end.
Okay.
Actually,
Anybody else?
Can I shoot someone's mom in the face if they're talking bad?
depending on the result of beta, what are those rules subject to change in terms of the...
Well, everything is going to be subject to change because beta could change any number of things. Once beta launches and we see what the new animation systems are and whatnot,
We'll have another
obviously take
meeting.
care of that. Right. I added a note there. It says active participants in a firefight will not be punished for accidentally killing the wrong person during a gunfight. Tensions are always high, and in the real apocalypse, you wouldn't be worried about whether or not the guy holding a gun across the street is actually a bad guy. If gunshots are ringing out, be smart and walk the other way, as you realistically should, and hopefully would. This is, however, where video evidence will come in handy. With video, you could easily prove that your kill was accidental and not malicious. It could prevent potential OOC assault from the other party. I don't want people fighting in a gunfight because, again, gunfights are likely going to be very rare in the server, and it's going to have a lot of RP buildup. I don't want you to be worried about getting banned for participating in the gunfight roleplay. Just if you hear gunshots, don't participate. There's no point.
What if your character's a fucking psycho?
Oh my god, gunshots are gonna go over there and see if they
Like,
got
yeah,
the
like,
golden
I gotta know.
scar.
I gotta see these
Nothing-
dead bodies.
You
Like, I
use
gotta
an
against
exotic
it.
character to shoot
Nothing
yourself in the
against it.
face.
It's like, hey Joey,
You're
wanna see
perfectly-
this dead body?
You're perfectly allowed to go and see what's happening, but if you get shot during the gunfight, any
That's your
report
fault.
you make is going to be shut down. Yeah, it's not going to be
I'll
anybody's
hold
fault but
Connor
yours.
personally responsible for any deaths I take in character.
That's fine. I don't really want to go through all of the punishments. We didn't get any feedback
We didn't,
like
no,
at
we,
all.
we didn't get that much feedback, but Just
Everybody was
just to ease, but just to ease your soothing throat, classic. I'll go through them just so everyone's on the same page.
Okay.
Fuck, my throat's dry now. Fuck's sake, you're a dick.
Punishments will be, but not limited to, floggings, whippings,
See-
hanging.
Where's that from? Fuck. Oh shit. Anyway, punishments. There was little discussion in the punishments channel, so I'm assuming that the ones we listed were okay with the majority of you. The original message is pasted below. Bad RP, depending on the severity, 5 to 10 day ban and potential to be entered into the mentor program. Just as an added thing, if it's actually ever implemented. KOS, this really shouldn't be happening at all, but if it happens by an accident, 3-day ban. If obviously an intentional, malicious kill on site without roleplay and not a misidentification, permanent removal. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you prove to do it maliciously like you're a fucking dick, oof, you're out.
Right.
And NVFL, 5 to 10 ban depending on severity. Invalid execution, similar to a KOS. This really shouldn't happen. Just don't shoot people unless you're sure you can, or if they've given you permission. Regardless, 7-day ban.
I wanted
Trala-
to go over something in that, if that's all right.
Okay,
Um,
Daddy.
The reason KOS
That's my dad.
is the reason KOS is a permanent removal and invalid execution is a 7-day, because I view KOS more as running up to somebody and shooting them, whereas I view an invalid execution as something that does have proper RP buildup, but the death was unwarranted. Because there was roleplay involved in the situation, I'm not going to permanently remove them because it was likely an accident, which is why it's just a week. But please do just make sure. You're good, lad.
Right. Thank you. Anyway, so continuing on. Troll RP, permanent removal. Don't need that shit, don't want that shit. So if you see anyone being an absolute fucking spastic, let us know. We'll have, if you've got video evidence, we'll have a look through.
I'll
If it's
ban
really
myself.
that bad, yep, there we go. Okay, sorted. Right, see you later, babe. Anyway,
All right.
bring in IC, Salt, OC, or OC, or IC. Fuck, that's a tongue twister right there, Jesus.
Mhm.
Absolutely no reason to be doing this whatsoever. If it gets excessive, bans will have to occur, but I'd prefer if we left it to a case-by-case basis, which is completely fair enough. If personally, me speaking, if you have any quarrels with anyone in the community, talk it out. At the end of the day, we're mature, we're close-knit, and we're private. You know, there's no point in all being in our own little corners, just like, that fucking Walnuts, he's a fucking prick. I
Hey,
can't
I
fucking
can
stand
fucking
him.
Yes,
hear you. Hey, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Shit, is that a KOS? Was that a KOS right there?
No,
It's a
no, he
threat, you
initiated.
dickhead.
I think this is actually falls under the next section, which is OOC harassment. So you're
Drop
gone.
weapons
Bye.
during sex. Oh,
Yeah.
God, fucking asshole. You invited me and then you want to do that.
So
Um,
OC harassment, as Classic said, permanent removal if it's that bad, if it's pretty severe. I don't
What are
like
the
you as
litigations
simply.
on IRL harassment?
what do you mean?
Like, you know, what if I just, find lad on the street or something like that,
It's not gonna happen.
You can
This is
find
gonna be
me.
another. This is gonna be another strongly case by case thing.
Mhm.
Because I don't really foresee it happening. I don't think it will, to be honest. But if I know in other servers, I don't really want to name servers, but in other servers that I've been on in the past, specific things have come up that have resulted in flame wars in between specific people, and it got really excessive. So if something like that were to come up, I hope that they would have been removed before it got severe. But again, it's going to be case by case.
And continuing on, excessive argument with staff. increased severity of the punishment that is being argued. If there is no current punishment, 4-day ban. This is only in very obvious circumstances and won't be abused. As simple as everyone that is in the current staff team is all agreed that with this kind of rule, this kind of power, it's just strictly no, it's strictly not going to be abused. It's not like Rule 4,
Right.
you know. It's just, I mean, if people do here keep up with Daisy RP, we've kind of seen how it's been like the past couple of weeks.
Oh,
First
terrible?
there was, I mean, with Aiko's report, she puts it up. Someone accuses her of false report, and then she Rule 4's the lot of them.
Right.
then-
It's not going to be abused like that. And
Exactly,
honestly, for all I care, you can debate things with the staff team. I don't really mind. That's going to be another specific scenario thing. But if you disagree with the punishment that's been placed, I don't really want to have an appeals system. I'd rather you just talk to a staff member about it in voice chat. It takes a lot less time and it's easier to go through. And I'm perfectly okay with debating punishments. But if it gets really severe and if you're just being an asshat about it for no reason, and it gets bad, then yeah.
Backhanded will be fucking issued. But
Right.
seriously, yeah, action will be taken if that does occur. Combat logging, just don't do it. There's just no point for it, and if you're caught doing it, it's a week-long ban, straight up. Pretty clear. It's nothing really behind that.
Yeah, and again, the reason that one's a week as well is because I mean, it's kind of hard to explain because we've all agreed that real life comes first. But I want people who, if something comes up in real life, I'm okay with you having to leave the roleplay situation, but let people you're currently roleplaying with know. Again, with the exclusive community, everybody's going to know each other. We're all going to be cool with each other, I hope, and you're going to be comfortable with role-playing with each other. If something comes up in real life, just, in OOC chat, of course, talk to the people in the current situation you're in, tell them that you have to leave because of something, and then get off. I don't want people to just leave, because I'm sure if something comes up in the real world and it's significant enough to have to leave the roleplay, the people in the current situation will be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. And notify staff as an extra, wall of security there, just in case.
Right.
And, I'm pretty sure would leave that in notes somewhere, like this person left for this reason, they role-played with such and such, all that kind of stuff, just in case it does come up in the future. At least that's what I'll be doing personally.
Out of the blue, this is an odd question. Should we notify staff, because I live in New Mexico and there's weird windstorms or just, rain out of the blue. So should we, let them know I have some bad weather. So if I get disconnected, please don't take that as a combat log.
Pretty much, yeah. If there's certain circumstances with say your internet is really poor due to weather, or you've just got a shit internet provider, let us know.
If something happens and you leave the situation, we're not just going to ban you for 7 days instantly. Just talk to somebody. If your internet shut down, I'm not going to ban you for that because it's not your fault. You didn't willingly leave the situation. It might have made things kind of awkward for them in game because you just stood there for a few seconds and then disappeared, but I'm sure they can work around it, and I'm sure that we can come to an agreement. If it wasn't your fault, I just talk to somebody.
I don't believe you.
Really. That's nice. That's a good. I said it's cool.
Yeah. I think it'll be more of a case of staff will question why such and such person left at this time, and then it'll be like, okay, fair enough, that's all right. Note it down. Tell the other party if you haven't yet.
Right.
So that kind of system will be put in place. Now, moving on from the combat logging, ghosting. This is more difficult to define because we are only going to have one server at the moment, considering with the size of the community and whatnot. But if it is proven that you've logged into an active fight to help your friends, week-long ban as well, because it's not on.
And the way that we could tell that, because the logs show who you shoot, who gets shot, and the logs show when you logged in, when you logged out. So if we see that people are getting shot, we see that you log in, and then we see that suddenly you're getting shot, it's not going to be too hard to tell who logged in to participate in the firefight because we have timestamps of when you logged in and when you shot somebody. It's not always going to be that easy. Maybe you logged in and you didn't show up in the logs at all, didn't shoot, didn't get hit. But please just don't do it. Like, it's going to be another trust system. I can take the last couple paragraphs.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's good.
Real quick,
Oh,
before we
honey,
move
don't
on,
stress yourself.
Moving back to the in-character assault,
Mhm.
out of character, and so on and so forth. I just want to make sure everybody understands that, like, again, this is a roleplay community. We're not, like, actively, like, if you have beef with somebody in game, it shouldn't be because you have beef with them outside.
Right.
I like the thought of, like, friends betraying friends, in game, and everybody being cool with it outside.
Right. Like, I know Alex out of character, but in character, I should probably hate him. Yeah.
I would.
He's just such a likable guy, though.
Wrong.
But is that Apron? You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make that known.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Alex.
Says all other unlisted rule breaks will be taken care of individually and specifically depending on the situations in question. I don't really feel like we need to list everything out. I feel like we've listed out most things that could potentially go wrong, as far as rules go. But if there's something else that comes up that you think is a rule break or you think ruined the immersion or was improper roleplay, just bring it to the staff team and we'll take care of that individually and separate from the rest. In addition to the punishments listed above, we will have a strike system. Any rule break severe enough to warrant a permaban will bypass any strike system. However, smaller incidences such as an invalid execution or an NVFL charge will each warrant 1 strike or tally against the perpetrator. These strikes fall off at a rate of 1 every 3 months, and once you reach 3 strikes, you're removed from the community. There will always be extenuating circumstances, so the staff team will hand these out according to the situations that present themselves. This should not, however, be an issue, as 3 rule breaks in 3 months is fairly severe. Like it said, if you KOS somebody or something like that, which is a permaban, you're not going to get a strike for it, you're going to be removed. If you, troll RP, another thing, if you combat log, if you show no value for your character's life, maybe execute somebody accidentally, it's going to be a strike placed against you. Those aren't going to, the biggest thing is that I've seen on other roleplay communities is that those strikes are listed publicly, as points or warning points or whatever they are. We're not going to list those publicly. The strikes that are against you will not be shown to the rest of the community. We're going to keep track of them individually, just to try to decrease kind of witch hunting. But is everybody okay with they fall off of 3 months? Once you hit 3, you're gone.
I'd like the idea, yeah. What about everyone else?
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think, but everyone should, before people make ban reports, I think it would be good for everyone to try and resolve their issues before filing a report.
Right. Yeah.
Dilly.
And then bring the I would like for people to try to solve the issues and then bring the solution to the staff team. If it's this person needs to be in the mentor program, if it's this is what we came up with, I don't care what it is, just bring the solution to the staff team. Lad, you want to take general community rules?
No. Yeah, sure.
Oh.
General community rules. Yes, as a community, made it clear that these did not have to be lined out for you, which we appreciate. I would prefer that you make a legitimate effort to record, as it makes everyone's life easier, but that's not something we can force. There is currently no restrictions being placed on language. I'm not worried about any of that whatsoever, but please don't abuse our trust and make us regret that decision.
I see.
You guys all know the drill. This is nothing new for you. To this day, I believe that Daisy Underground said it best, so to quote them, don't be a dick.
Is everybody okay with that? We don't have anything specifically lined out, but I'm trusting that, you won't be dicks.
I've got to go get some dinner, so I'll be back.
Yeah.
Okay. So yep, that's pretty much everything in the closed discussions. Obviously, we're
Okay.
going to keep this up here for, well, a fair while, I would imagine, for people who haven't participated in meetings. They can have a look through,
Yeah.
and if
We're
they
gonna
have any
keep
concerns, then they can message us, be like, hey, what clarification for this, that, what
right.
the fuck's this, fuck off, all that kind of crap.
We'll keep the closed discussions up. I'm gonna turn all of this into a formal rules document, and then I'll post that as well. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the settlements and war systems. We don't have any discussions about those. We kind of we're not getting a lot of activity in the discussions, so I didn't think we should draw it out for another week or two to get enough feedback. I wanted to bring it up in a meeting. We want to introduce a settlement system, or at least that's something that I really, really want to introduce. Something that I'm pretty, I really want it to be involved in the server. Essentially allowing groups to claim land or territory or buildings or whatever and enforce their own rule systems in that settlement. What do you guys think about that? How do you think it should work? Where do you think those rules should be posted? Do you think there should be any limitations on where groups can claim? Do you think there should be limitations on what qualifies as a group? Things like that.
Well, when it comes to territories, I do believe that you should not be able to claim 3/4 of the entire map at all. Like,
Right.
unless you can
Well,
actually.
I
compounds.
think if
That-
you have the manpower, go for
Yeah.
it. But if
Yeah.
not,
I was literally just about to say, unless you have the manpower, then
Right.
you can enforce it. By all means,
And
attempt it. But
right. And I want the people who want to claim settlements. I want them to bring the settlements that they want to claim up to the lore keepers, actually, because I think you guys will be able to see if them, claiming anything fits into your current ongoing server lore, and if they have enough people to defend it, if it's a reasonable piece of land that they can obtain.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Such things, I think, will need to be approved by the lore keepers, which will sort of /be approval through the community, because I think that this will end up being discussions.
All right.
Yeah, I like all that.
Do you want any restrictions on what rules people can create for their settlements? Obviously, allowing KOS or things like that won't be acceptable, but we're not going to let people allow anything that's a rule break. But letting people say as soon as you come in, you're gonna be either asked to leave or robbed
But
or
these
whatever it
things
is.
will earn you execution here at
Right.
our jail.
Things like that. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Thank you. Do you want people to be able to state their own things that would result in execution? Do you want people to make their own rules that if you break them, they can execute you realistically? Is that something that you guys would like to see? Or
Well,
are you
I
afraid it would
think
get
it only
abused?
makes sense that if someone's going to attempt a settlement, they might try to have rules like you can't kill each other, obviously.
Right.
You can't steal from one another, or you can't steal from this building, or whatever, things that they might want to put in place and try to enforce. I'd kind of like to see that sort of thing.
mhm.
And that would allow for internal roleplay, within the settlement.
Yeah,
Right.
I was going to say that regardless of what kind of settlement it is, the current rule set should be put in place, but
Right.
that particular settlement should just simply have an extension of those rules that are put through the staff team to be verified, as well as the lore team as well, to see if it all sticks, it's all good enough, and if it isn't, corrections will be made before they're put in force, all that kind of jazz. That's
And now,
what
how
I
do
thought.
you? Okay, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I finished.
Okay. How do you want the community to be made aware of the settlements and of the rules? Initially I thought we could make a Discord text channel with all of the settlements shown on a map and their corresponding rules, but somebody told me that would basically allow people to take OC knowledge in character.
I think since this community is going to be so small and tight knit, that we can just do it by word of mouth in game.
That's what
I
I'm
think so. I agree as well. I really think that we should stick as much as possible in characterly. And remember, since we're not going to have a website and we're not going to necessarily have we're not going to have like official group threads or any sort of OOC recruitment methods.
Right.
We may post, say, screenshots or videos or journal entries, if you guys want to write them, of stuff that reflects roleplay that you've done in the server. But we don't want to have like a bunch of preemptive OOC recruitment and things before you even have a group. We want those things to be built in characterly. So I think the word will spread, and it's kind of part of that. Is it really your settlement if nobody else knows it's your settlement? Sort of thing.
Right.
Is it really your settlement if you actually can't defend it? Those seem to me like questions that should be answered through the RP.
Yeah, and then.
And are there for the settlement system? I want to ask how you guys feel about tent blocking? That's been a problem on a lot of other servers. There's no base building right now, so you can't build walls to prevent people from coming in. So a lot of people have been using tents to block specific entrances. Do you guys want to allow that as a placeholder until base building is implemented? Do you guys want to put restrictions on that?
I don't really see a huge problem with it myself.
Isn't it sort of restrictive to roleplay if you sort of like cordon yourself in though? Like, I mean, how does this work?
Yeah,
I think-
Well, that's a risk they
yeah.
can take in game. They can choose to strategically put up some tents to block out some openings, or they can just leave it open. I mean, that learn from your mistakes.
There's
Me-
I
settlement.
don't love the idea because it doesn't make sense. Realistically, you'd just be able to cut through the tent. But because there's no base building in DayZ, I'm personally okay with it being implemented as a placeholder system for
Yeah, as a
settlements.
placeholder,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. But
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say instead of tents, use barrels.
I mean, in as much as it restricts roleplay, I'm against it. If somebody can set up some sort of little island zone that nobody can ever get into or out of or whatever, then that's kind of weird. But
Right. I mean, I think it will have to be another case-by-case basis. If somebody just creates a big square in the middle of a field with car tents, that's going to be a little weird. But I personally have a group in mind, and I know exactly where they're going to set up. And I know there are 3 entrances. And if I could put 2 tents with their backs to 2 of them, so that we only have to guard 1, that's probably what we would end up doing.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so then, in that case, so long as it was, it's sort of like in the for defenses or for reducing entrances rather than completely blocking off.
Yeah,
Right.
Trade.
Or
Yeah.
if you were maybe only protecting an area while your group was logging off for the night or something, I don't know, then that would work.
yeah.
Okay.
But if
I
it
mean,
starts, I think if it starts impeding roleplay, then that might be an issue.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And that is another thing that we would have to just see how it goes in game. I don't know if there's any way we can 100% say what the community will do with it. If it's used in game, then we'll have to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'd rather prefer seeing, instead of tents being used to like block the small holes in the walls and that, is barrels, because I mean, in terms of when it comes to realism, you watch a lot of post-apocalyptic movies, you read books and all that kind of shit, and from my experience with me watching, is obviously they don't use tents as barricades, they use barrels to kind of
Right.
like mark out their territory. So, and I haven't seen anyone use that kind of method
The
in
problem
DayZ.
with barrels is
Obviously,
that you can
barrels is
just
the harder
throw them
find.
up.
Very tiny though.
And it would at least look better.
It
Like,
would.
just
The
for
only
the
problem is you
aesthetic.
can pick them up and move
Yeah.
them.
Barrels
but
are really
I
ineffective.
know what you mean.
Well, can't you do the same with the tents?
No, because if you put the tent back to the hole in the wall, they can't get through unless they glitch through. Because you can only
See.
pack a tent from the inside.
Okay, understood.
I actually, just looking over the rules, I just now noticed we don't have any punishment for metagaming. I think the reason I didn't list it initially is because it's really hard to prove. Do you guys feel like that needs to be listed, or do you want that to be one of the case-by-case things?
I think that we need to have it at least mentioned there. It needs to be clear that metagaming is not a part of the roleplay. Like, it's just, it is completely the opposite of an immersive roleplay experience. If you already know the end of the story, if you already know things, then you don't get to discover the story.
Right.
If you take stuff from outside, you don't get to experience whatever somebody is trying to show you.
All
And
right.
some people work really hard to try to build something up and reveal it for you. And the metagame can crush that.
Yeah, just
Right.
a little bit.
To bring up the second thing that I wanted to bring up was the war system. I brought it up when we first opened the Discord in the very first community meeting we had. It was something that Real RP had done that I really liked, and then I wanted to bring over was a formal war system that would be announced ICly as well as OSCly if you guys wanted. It would be if two groups have prior hostilities with each other, they could declare war on one another and create their own rules for the fighting. You know, if they agreed that all deaths on each other would be permadeath, that would be fine. If they agreed to have identifying marks, you know, things like that. It would bring up some other issues with misidentification and whatnot. Do you guys like the idea of like a formal war declaration system, or do you want to just leave it as it is and assume that that'll be taken care of in character?
Well, anyone?
This is
It's
I
trying to
personally
wait
like
for
the
somebody
idea
else to say.
of a formal system. I think when it comes to stuff like that, I don't think you can just trust people, things like that happen in character. Like,
I think it depends on the scale of it all, really.
Yeah, I'm afraid that if we don't give people the option to declare the war, they're not going to know they can because people just aren't creative enough. But
I mean, what if you
I
have
don't know. I believe that's a
like,
pretty standard thing that people do to the point that I'm like, okay.
you know, like
well, firefights, yes, but the
mob
war
wars,
system
that
would
could
allow
be-
for more broad hostilities
20
without
Yeah.
proper initiation.
No, I won't talk. It's fine.
No, what's up, Walnuts?
The option of like a silent war, you know, two parties conflicting under the blanket, under the covers of prying eyes, you know, I think that'd be a really cool thing to you know have. I mean, I don't think that a declaration of war should be made out of character like as a what's the fucking word requirement.
Okay.
Well, I say if there's
you
two
said,
parties
the
that are
option.
fighting, yeah, if they all know that they're going to be fighting together, there should be no problem. But if there's a way on Discord we can make like, I don't know, carrier pigeon, I don't know, and that's where we can like send a war message to the other party.
You got a fucking flyer hanging over the Gorka
Oh,
sign.
that reminds me of something. Do you guys want to have a radio broadcast text channel to text RP?
Okay.
Yeah? Any opposition to that?
Yeah,
I mean, like what, like a
Like kind of like what
like
Daisy
a
RP had
common
on
channel?
her website.
Like this would be like the radio that everybody could hear, the radio station everybody could tune into.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
As far as open communications that everybody can see, you have to just know that everyone can see that, so you're not putting stuff that can be used against you.
Yeah, and I think it would need to be a text, so there's a record.
Right, and I want all private communications to be taken with the in-game radios. Also, Spider, do you want to touch on the lore situation with the cities and whatnot?
Yeah, so we will, and I apologize for things rolling out more slowly than I anticipated. My job I've got a new client, and spring holidays are still a thing. But anyway, we do have rough drafts for the fall of St. Pete's and the fall of France, and we've got just a little bit more really to put the basic cornerstones on our big overall outline, enough that people could definitely play on it. We're real close to people being able to play on it now. I really would love if anybody has ideas or wants to create content for other areas that go down by way of a zombification fungus. You know, run with it and let me know if you have ideas or want to just do some rough draft of something, and we'll polish it up, get it out there.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys, I mean, I know Spider's described it before as a multimedia lore. That's what we're trying to create. Is we want text, we want news articles, we want videos. If you guys want to make them broadcast, we want
Or even just
pictures.
audio stuff. Like if you don't want to sit down and write something out, then be a reporter who's telling the story of what's happening. Be some radio guy who's broadcasting over the airwaves as everything goes down. Whatever. Tell us the story in a recording and kind of clean it up in an editor or something. It doesn't
Even
have to be written.
Even an audio drama, that would be something.
Yeah,
really
it would be
cool.
wonderful.
I think the
But-
problem with a lot of other servers is that their lore is just a wall of text, and a lot of people don't read it, which prevents that from being taken in character and prevents a lot of possible roleplay. So if
Yeah,
we
and
make
we
it
don't-
more accessible, then
Well, for a lot of people, the lore is just, a fancy backdrop. It has no effect. It's just the past. Some people see the lore as, it doesn't change. Just fancy backdrop.
Well, I want to change that because
doesn't
we
have
can
any
add to
effect
the
on the
lore
game.
as we go along.
Like, for example, does it really matter how, zombies mutate and stuff like that to the average person? Nah.
we want to make it matter. That's the thing. We want to have an ongoing lore that continues into the world that we're playing in.
Yeah, imagination.
Mm. I mean,
Well,
what
and
I
that,
was...
that it's not like everybody has to. People can do it and own that part of the lore, and if they want to, we're going to be able to play without the fall of every major city. We're
And the
going
lore
to.
keepers are also simultaneously going to be the event team. They will have lore events that are being scheduled that will continue the lore that they've created into the game and allow for something for everyone to participate in.
I mean, what I was going to suggest is just an idea I had. I don't know if yourself, Spider, had thought of it or not. It's something called the Book of Last Hope. And essentially, it was what I was going to say. It's a separate text channel, but it's got like a bunch of like sub channels. So if you want to, you have the main lore, and then you have the other stories. Say like the fall of London, the fall of Paris, fall of whatever. So it's optional to read the sub stories, but at least you'll be able to see the main lore, exactly what's
that's
there.
That's exactly kind of what I've got going on, or what I'm attempting to have in the end. Like, the only thing I think that will be mostly necessary, I'm trying to keep it to that outline where you can just look at the bullet points and the timeline and get a really good grasp of what has happened and know where you are now. And then other stuff, for those who are really in depth in the lore, they can create characters who spread that by word of mouth. Some people might have lost all comms and just knew that the world was burning down around them while they were trying to head in whatever direction, right? And not really know what happened on the other side of the world. Others might know. Some of those things we can reveal over time. But I absolutely agree that, some of the lore, it's not going to be like, oh my god, if you don't know this. If our characters do know it, we can correct characters, we can think that they're delusional. Everybody doesn't have to know or even believe the lore.
Basically,
Right.
People don't have to
That-
believe
that-
that France fell.
That's
basically, we're
that's a
just
really great
kind
point.
of setting a basis of knowledge that people can take from as they
Right.
feel.
And
Spider, that's a
interact
really
with.
great point
Their-
that you just made, though. I would love to see people take that in character. People who basically conspiracy theorist type characters who maybe think that we're the only place that fell, whereas the entire world knows we're the last one. Maybe people who think that zombies are different than what we know they are. I would
Those
love to
fucking
see
Russians.
some false knowledge or propaganda, things like that, being spread in character. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and you don't
Alright.
have to think, oh my god, stupid newbies don't even know the lore. You could just take them as like, man, what the
A
hell
lot
is
of
wrong
people
with
have
you?
that opinion, sadly. It's
Alrighty.
like,
That's
the
not
lore.
what the hell's going on. Make it just pretend there is no lore.
I will now play
You
a
know?
sailor who believes it all started because a mermaid bit somebody.
And
Alan?
then your win condition is to convince 5 people that is really how it started. You have proof and evidence and recordings, and who knows.
Sing a little song. Yeah.
Bite your arm, show them the bite mark.
Kumbaya.
Is that all we wanted to
Apparently
talk
you're
about
from
the lore?
Florida and you were bitten by a manatee when you were 5 or some shit. But
Oh, I was a lad in a fishing town. The old man.
Dracula wins from his fucking.
Oh, spend your life, your jolly life, just sailing on the sea.
oh my god,
Oh no. God.
Oh man.
that
Alan's
segue was
story.
just perfectly timed. That was beautiful. Good job.
Is there anything else about the lore that we wanted to bring up, Spider?
No. Just that we are working in it, and my apologies for taking such a slow time. I know Apron. I don't know if you caught that note, but I did write back to you.
Sorry, say again.
I wrote back to you in our channel. Apron.
If that's all for the lore, last thing I wanted to bring up was that obviously we do need staff members. There isn't going to be any staff application system, not yet, at least. But me as well as the other staff team that we have right now are going to be the ones who decide who gets on the staff team. But if you are interested, please do let me or one of us know, because it is hard to tell sometimes if you're just being active or if you are actually interested in a staff position. We'd need arbiters, which are essentially going to be the game masters again. We need the mentors. We'd also need another lore keeper. So if you're interested in any of those positions, please do let me know.
And I do have some people in the running.
Okay. If that's all I really wanted to cover. I feel like we finalized most things in the meeting. So I want to ask if you guys have any last suggestions, comments, concerns about the server, anything you wanted to bring up regarding the rules, lore, things we've talked about, things we haven't.
So with all this no value for life and stuff like that, I mean, a realism and all that. I mean, are we gonna hold all this in comparison with the normal life that we have now? I mean, like people and thought bases and actions would be a lot different when faced with with situations like this.
We'd be holding it. We wouldn't be comparing it to the life you have now. We'd be comparing it to the life your character had, the way you're portraying your character.
I see.
It like I said, it will be on a case-by-case basis. If you're a reporter who sits in an office, has never been a field reporter, nothing like that, and then all of a sudden you squad wipe 6 military men, I'm gonna have an issue with that. If you are, say, God forbid anyone makes this character, but ex special forces, it'll be probably acceptable depending on the situation.
Special forces.
I don't want to see lots of super soldiers. You can make whatever you want so long as you can roleplay it appropriately. But
way to fucking diffuse me, Connor. I was gonna have Elvis Presley's grandson be a fucking Red Beret SEAL Team 7.
Red Beret.
Mow down a concert.
Anything else that you guys wanted to bring up? I think Alex had a question, right?
I hate you, Connor.
I know. What was your question?
Are the radio channels reserved, or can anyone set up their own public radio broadcast or anything like that?
Well, my plan is to only have one radio broadcast. It would be an open frequency, the one that everybody can use. If you want to set up your own radio broadcast on that frequency, that'd be fine. You can also do it in game, quote unquote. That'd be great too. Maybe advertise the times in which you're going to broadcast on the text channel, and then actually broadcast them in game. That'd be amazing.
That's what I mean, like in-game radio.
Yeah.
So there's only a select few channels.
There's only a few, yeah, which is, but just claim one.
Make things interesting.
It is. Anything else you guys wanted to bring up? Because that's all I have.
Connor, I think you're a cutie.
All right, I think we'll put that down in writing. We'll set that down in stone so everyone that comes to the community can see that Classic is a cutie.
Bolded at the top of the
banner.
sign
Make
off.
that
Actually,
It's forever part of the canon now.
Actually, can we just rename the Discord? I think Last Hope is really cool, but Connor's cutie RP.
I think that any roleplay character that Connor
I think
comes
that's
to make
absolutely going to draw in the demographic we're looking for. Connor's
It'll be an
QDRP
instant,
is
instant
absolutely
cutie pie. Instant cutie pie.
God.
Cutie pie
Oh, man.
roleplay. That'd be cool.
All right. Well, I appreciate all of you guys attending. I appreciate your feedback and your participation. I really do. We're looking at a server launch here in the very near future because we finalized quite a bit of stuff.
We looking at beta, the new feature?
I can't answer that. But
We don't want to like give you a solid date and then like disappoint you.
Right.
Yeah,
Like-
we're not the DayZ dev team.
You should be excited. You should be excited. We're not actually soon TM. It's like, ooh, you should be excited.
Right. I was gonna say something else.
I'm excited.
Right. Okay. Having said that, the server will open to the staff team before it opens to the public because we need to learn how to use the tools before you guys can actually start playing on the server. I don't want something to happen on the first day and we don't know how
I've
to
never
take care
done
of it.
some of this crap before.
No big deal.
And I've only ever done very, very little because I've been staff on other servers before, but I've never had full like owner privileges on a server. So I don't know how to do a lot of what we're going to be asked to do. So we're going to have to learn how to do that, and it's going to take some trial and error. So
And if
just so
some
you know,
of you do, let us know if you do.
right.
What are you gonna be able to do, though? What are
So
you
I just wanted to let you guys know if you see the server up before the scheduled release date, which will release when we have it for certain. Don't think that we're playing and looting up or something without you. I'm hoping that we have enough trust in the community to know that we wouldn't be doing that, but we're just learning.
We don't.
Trust you.
Speak for yourself. I cannot wait to find all the files and hide them in the corner of the map. Fuck you.
Straight to Tizzy. Straight to Tizzy.
Straight to Tizzy.
Yeah, anybody who knows me knows that looting is not my forte. so-
Anybody who knows Spider knows that all she does is kill people. That's it. She
Oh,
gets
yeah,
in the game
oh.
and she gets in game and she
tears
PvPs.
through people. You wouldn't believe it.
Well, I've just defecated in my pants.
God.
Oh, y'all are
Um,
nice. I love you.
All right. That is all I have. I actually have a place to be in about 8 minutes ago, but
Whoa!
so I gotta get going
He's
and
getting married.
and do something. But like I said, I do appreciate you guys' participation. And if you have anything else you want to bring up when I'm gone, I'm sure Lad and Spider will be more than willing to take questions.
Indeed.
I mean,
Fuck
oh,
Apex
we all.
Crusader.
Oh yeah, and April. Sorry, bud.
Oh, good
Sorry,
luck.
was not intentional. I'm sorry.
Good meeting.
Yeah, but I gotta take off. So I appreciate you guys. I'll see you.
Have a
Take
good
it.
one.
Take care.